In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this Stitches Suitcase from one of the latest patterns of ByAnnie. It's got the pad for the shoulder if you want to carry it with the straps. You could over your shoulder, and you can also. It has two nice 1.5 inch straps. It's webbing, it's covered by fabric. It's got the front pocket and another zippered pocket in the front. The back has another pocket and a trolley sleeve. It opens up. To show the machine and all its content. There's an add-on pattern for this for different little bags. So it fills it in if you're going to use it for your featherweight. And it's got another pocket inside. Pockets in the front. With zipper pockets. So this is a sleeve where an acrylic piece goes in to make the bottom heavy so that you can, so it retains the shape when the machine is in there. I don't have that piece yet, but I'll be adding it on. It'll just be inserted in here. And then this strap is going to hold the machine. At the base like that. To keep it secure. On the pattern instructions, it says also that you can carry a bigger purse, a bigger machine. And if it had the base, this is how it would be. So if you're making this pattern, my biggest recommendation would be to make sure that you follow the steps exactly as in the pattern. So you don't make the mistake that I just did with this pocket. See, it was supposed to be like this one, like the front one, where the entire pocket is open, but you have to make sure that you attach the straps to, this is one piece of one piece, the front piece, and this is the lining. So what I did was I attached the straps after I added this pocket, which was incorrect. I had to add the straps before I did that, before I added this pocket. When I'm preparing my pieces to subcut them, I square off one edge and another edge, and then I'll subcut to the size. If you're using directional fabrics, pay attention to quilted piece C. You have to cut it a little bit bigger because when the instructions say to cut it, one piece is cut like this and the other one is cut like this. So the fabrics don't fit in the piece without changing the direction. In the previous step, I prepared my little pieces that needed interfacing, fusible interfacing. And then I prepared my 25 by 25 inch square fabric to make the binding. And for out of that fabric, you're gonna get 2 different sizes. The instructions are very clear, so I'm not gonna show that. And then you attach your bindings once you cut them, like this. And then make sure you have a little 1/4 inch overhang. And I just pinned them just to make sure that I don't mess it up. And I also marked my 1/4 inch overhang. You don't need to, but I find that I have to. Otherwise I don't get it right. Because once you sew it, it'll open up like that, and then your edges will be nice and straight. So I'm gonna prepare the rest of my binding. After I'm done attaching those strips, I'm gonna take the edges, the sewn edges, and press them open. Once the binding is prepared and the seams are pressed, I'm just gonna cut the little tails. And on the pattern, it tells you to set it aside. For the base stabilizer, the pattern tells you to sew a folded edge, folded it in a 1/4 inch, and then fold it again a 1/4 inch to make a seam along both sides. And then to fold it in half once your seams are done. This is the part where that acrylic piece is gonna slide into, and then sew this seam. I'm going to deviate a little bit. I'm going to sew it first on this and then do my hem on the round. This is how my tube of fabric for the base, acrylic base. I seamed it, made the hem, and it's open on both sides, and this is where the acrylic base will slip in. For the safety strap, I sewed it in half, and then I pressed the seams open so that when you turn it around, the seams are nice and flat. And then we're going to insert the webbing inside of this. The webbing is shorter than the strap. This is how I'm inserting my webbing. I'm holding it like that, and then I'm going to slip the sleeve over it. And make sure you leave an overhang. And then I'm adjusting it to make sure that this seam is in the middle. Once you're satisfied that the seam is in the middle, you're gonna fold this raw edges under and inside to cover the webbing. And I push in the edge that doesn't have the seam first, and then the other edge under. And it helps if the webbing is really nice and straight. Then I'm gonna put a clip on there, and I'm gonna sew according to the directions, top stitch all the way around after you fold this one in as well. So now I'm attaching the hook and loop tape. The scratchy portion, the scratchy part, the hook, goes on the side that's seamed, and then on the unseamed side is the soft portion, the loop. After I attach this all the way around, I'm going to turn my safety loop around, and I had already marked my center with a pin by folding it in half. And then from there, you're gonna mark a 2-inch line and a 3 1/4 line from the center on each side. So there's gonna be, for the strap, there's gonna be two pieces, a long piece and a short piece. And you're gonna attach the short piece to the long piece using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and do that for both. Then press the seam open and secure the seams with a top stitch so that when you're putting the strapping in, they don't fold to one side. Then we're gonna fold the straps in half the long way and sew the 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down on both straps. I made the straps according to the directions, and then now I'm applying the slider. So I marked where I have to sew. I'm gonna sew a box all the way around. After that, I'm gonna prepare the handle tabs, and these are gonna be made the same way by folding them, stitching them on the long edge. I'm gonna turn the bottom part of my handles. This way that I have is not very slippery, so it's hard to insert. The hinge thread is usually really easy. And again, just center the seam. And then I'm going to stitch, top stitch on both sides. The webbing inside is shorter than the fabric tube, and that's intentional. And again, just center the seam. And then I'm going to stitch, top stitch on both sides. The webbing inside is shorter than the fabric tube, and that's intentional. I prepared the handle tabs the same way as all the other straps, but in this case, the ends are going to be kept raw. That's to keep the the webbing from the seam allowance. So we're going to fold them in half, each one, and insert the square ring. Make sure I get the ugly side to the inside. And then I'm gonna top stitch the square and top stitch all the way down. So I'm going to insert this handle with the seam side facing up, and then I'm going to put it through here. So that both seam sides are touching, and then insert it through here and here. So that's going to be the adjustable part. And then this end, we'll go this way. And then there's a marked line where this is going to fold to, and here's the line where the square is going to be. So now I'm just going to go ahead and finish it by sewing the square with the X on that side, and this is the handle. This is one handle. And then I'm going to do the same for the other handle. Next on the instructions is preparing the handle pads. So in the pattern, they suggest that you put a pin on the top portion, so you don't get them mixed up. And then 1/2 inch down from the top of the interior, we're going to put the soft part of the hook and loop tape. And then for the exterior, the hook part 1/2 inch away from the bottom. And then there's marked lines on one of the panels, so that once you have your hook and loop tape, you're gonna attach them together like this, wrong sides to the inside, and then round the corners with the template that they provide in the pattern. These are going to be attached together once they're... I attached the hook and loop tape. Here's my pin, that's the top. Now I'm going to take the two pieces and put them together and baste all the way around. And after I baste it, I'm going to round my corners. So I'll cut the corners out and then baste them again. Now I'm going to bind it. I sewed the binding all the way around, and now I'm going to flip it around. And I did trim my corners a little bit more because it was kind of wonky. So then I'm gonna cover up this seam by top stitching it down all the way around. And that's the little shoulder pad thing. I'm working on the front pocket. So I'm attaching the zipper first, right side facing the right side of the fabric, and I'm going to attach it here first. See, the zipper covers the raw edge. And this is how I'm going to finish all my zippers. And then on the top side, it looks like top stitching. I'm going to add the binding on top now and add the zipper pull. Pocket AB is done. For the next step, it's going to be the back pockets. So I'm going to bind the back pocket at the top according to the instructions. And then this is the trolley sleeve. This one gets binded at the top and the bottom this way, the short side up. And then after binding, you're going to take the measurements that's given on the patterns and lay this on top, a trolley sleeve, and then baste them all the way around. This is the back pocket with the trolley sleeve. Next, I'm going to start working on the back pockets. So I'm going to bind the vinyl across the long edge on the top and the bottom. And this is the inner pocket D, the vinyl pocket. And now I'm going to work on the inner pocket. So for this, I'll need the zipper and the top part, the bottom part of the main, and the same parts for the lining. And the zipper is going to be applied between these two according to the directions. So in the pattern instructions, it says to join the two pieces together, wrong sides together. So you're going to have like the same thing as if it was just one piece of quilted fabric. And then align your zipper wrong side up and right sides together. and then sew 1/4 inch, and then do the same thing for the, and I'm doing the same thing for the top strip, lining them together, and then I'll attach my zipper this way, and then sew them in the back the same way that all the pattern instructions say, which is the way that all ByAnnie patterns are, zippers are attached. So I just want to say a little tip here. If you want the thread to match the zipper, when you're installing the zipper, make sure that you change your bobbin thread. I usually do, but I forgot this time, and I started cutting the whiskers off so that when I sew it down, it doesn't show. So normally I would just unpick it and redo it again, but this time I'm not going to do that because I already cut a little bit. Because now you're going to sew this zipper like this and cover all the raw edge. And I finished the back pocket. I'm going to trim the zippers overhanging edges and then trim the zipper to the size indicated in the pattern. Next I marked the lines for the vinyl zipper placement. And then I'm going to attach it on the sides, bottom, and do the separations on the mark lines. I'm making the dividers, little dividers, bias binding, little tiny bias. Not bias, it's straight binding. And so I can sew the seam over it. Next, I'm preparing the inner pocket F, which is prepared exactly the same way as the last pocket, the pocket E with the zipper. So the F zipper is, the F1 and F2 zipper is done. And this is for the inner pocket. And the next step is going to be the zipper loop. So far all the sewing steps have been pretty much the same as the A Place for Everything pattern as far as how to put the components together. The only different thing on this bag is going to be the zipper strip or the gusset. You have to measure everything very carefully. The instructions are on the pattern. And then once you measure, you probably can't see it, but I'm going to cut with the scissors along the lines to make the shape of the gusset. So here's the gusset all cut out. Next, I marked the front with a safety pin, and I'm going to seal these edges. Next, I'm going to do the binding, the 2-inch binding along the curved edges. On both sides. So in the pattern, it tells you to sew the binding onto the right side, onto the wrong side, so that when you fold it, it folds to the right side for the top stitching. I did it backwards, and I'm not going to redo that again. So what I'm going to do is I just folded it to make sure that when I seam the top, it catches the bottom, and I'm just going to go ahead and attach the zipper that way. I'm going to do a basting stitch first, of course, and then I'll attach it by sewing on this bottom edge and then on the top edge all the way around like that. And the process is the same as they teach you in all the ByAnnie videos, so I'm not going to show that. This is not a tutorial anyway. I'm just showing you how what my steps were. So it'll be stitched something like this. I attached the first portion of the zipper along this edge. I took out the basting stitch, and then I'm going to sew this edge now to make sure I hide all the raw edges. After attaching the zipper, you're going to subcut the sides again and the top to the measurement that they have on the pattern. Okay, I'm finally at the point where I can see the bag. So this is going to be all the front pieces. I'm going to keep them together. The inside, the outside. Then this is going to be the back pieces, the outside and the inside. And then this is the gusset. I still have to attach the gusset. So I'm going to be attaching this and putting the binding and then making the loop, the gusset loop. Before assembling the zipper loop, you have to attach, I'm going to attach the safety strap. I made the markings according to the pattern, and then I'm going to sew it around. So there's the safety strap. You can put this in the middle if you're using it for another machine according to the instructions. I'm going to make the zipper loop now, attaching the zipper part to the base on both sides, creating a loop. Once I'm done doing the seam, I'm going to put the straight binding here this way, and it's important to do it this way so that when you fold it over, it covers the seam, and this is straight. You don't want this to be folded that way. Now the gusset is done, and I'm going to start working on the back and the front panels. I'm at the step where I'm going to be putting the front and the backs together. So this is what the front is going to look like, and after this is all sewn, then I'm going to sew the pocket on the back. Now this is sewn, so now I'm going to do the back of the front, and this is a easy step. I'm just going to sew this all the way around. Now I have the correct sides, the correct side to the front, and I'm going to sew it all the way around with the flat side down like that. Again, one side down and one to go. So on the binding, this binding, I had a really hard time because I attached this using white thread. So I would recommend to use the thread that blends into the fabric so that when you fold over your binding, if there's spaces that are hard to cover, they won't be as visible. Like for example here, I I'm not gonna redo it because it's just a little bit, but it would have been nice if that wasn't showing, or if it blended in. Anyway, so on to the next one. This time when I attached the back panel, I didn't sew it at a full 1/4 of an inch at the edges. So I'll do the full 1/4 inch when I put the bias binding on. And that way none of this stitching is going to show. I pin the binding all the way around. That way if I have to adjust the seam, I do. And then I'm going to top stitch it. Here is the finished Stitches Suitcase. And it came out really nice. The binding is attached very nicely. This is the back. This has a trolley sleeve. Okay, so I found another boo-boo that I made while making this pattern. I attached the straps on the back after I added the back pocket. So now instead of being a big pocket, it's just one pocket and 2 little side pockets. I mean, it's still usable, but I'm sure that it wasn't supposed to be like this.